Haunting teacher stories. 7 bone-chilling tales you should never hear alone. In the small town of Redwood, under the eerie glow of a full moon, a chilling rumor spread like wildfire. The old schoolhouse, long abandoned, whispered secrets of the teachers who vanished without a trace. Students spoke in hushed tones about the eerie shadow that flickered in the windows, a ghostly figure dressed in a tattered tweed jacket, staring out into the dark, waiting. What happened to those teachers? Where did they go? Each story more terrifying than the last. They fused fear and fascination, drawing the curious closer. They said Mr. Thompson taught the history of war, but was found in the woods with an antique compass, carving strange symbols into the bark of twisted trees. He was never seen again, but sometimes echoes of a battle cry rippled through the air around the old playground. And Mrs. Lark, with her kind smile, wielded no more than a math book until the day the chalkboard shattered in front of her. Some claimed she became one with the walls, her laughter still ringing as children entered and left the haunted corridors. The whiffs of chalk dust hung like a thick fog, making it hard to breathe as tales grew darker. Students claimed that if you listened closely, you could hear the faint scratch of a pencil, like a ghost desperately trying to finish unfinished lessons and send secret messages. On stormy nights, the lights would flicker, and a ghostly scream would tear through the halls, leaving everyone frozen with horror. Only the bravest dared to tell these stories, sharing them under the covers, feeling the thrill of fear crawl up their spines. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon, and while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Yet, despite all the spine-chilling tales, the mystery only deepened. Would anyone dare to uncover the fate of the last teacher? The one whose name was never spoken? A legend whispered in the wind? Or was it just a tale to frighten children, just like the shadows lurking just out of reach? The time had come for someone to set foot in that eerie schoolhouse, to face what lurked within. But who would take the plunge? And what would they find on the other side? The air felt electric as the clock struck midnight. A group of bold friends, led by Jamie, a thrill-seeker with a penchant for the paranormal, made their way to the old schoolhouse. Flashlights flickered, cutting through the oppressive darkness that clung to the wooden structure. Each one felt the weight of the tales they had spent years recounting. This wasn't just a field trip. It was a dare, a challenge against their own fears. Are you guys sure about this? Ethan whispered, hesitating at the rotting door. The creaking hinges complained as Jamie shoved it open, revealing a pitch-black corridor lined with crumbling lockers. Come on, we can't wimp out now, he urged, his voice echoing unnervingly. Inside, the smell of mildew and neglect assaulted their senses. Dust hung in the air like a suspended cloud, trapping all sound. Every scuff of their shoes against the floorboards amplified their anxiety, turning the quiet into a cacophony of dread. If we find anything, it's just going to be dust and old books, Sarah scoffed, but even she felt her stomach flip. They moved cautiously through the hall, feeling the chill of the past seep into their bones. Let us check the teacher's lounge first, Jamie suggested, pushing forward with the group trailing behind him. As they entered, a sudden gust of wind whipped through, tossing papers into the air. A collective gasp echoed as they realized these were old lesson plans, handwritten, yellowing sheets, untouched by time. It looked like someone had left them behind in a rush. Well, look at this one, Tara said, holding up a sheet that was eerily covered in strange symbols, reminiscent of what they'd heard about Mr. Thompson. It was as if the ghosts of their stories had come alive, and dread dripped off every letter. Just then, the sudden clatter of a chair scraping against the floor stopped them cold. The 4 friends exchanged panicked glances. Was it the wind? Or something more sinister? I don't think we're alone, Jamie said, his bravado trembling. The energy in the room shifted. What had once been an adventure was now a fight against growing terror. With hearts pounding, they ventured deeper, each step heavier than the last. The classrooms were filled with nothingness, empty desks, whispered secrets that tangled in the silence. In one room, they discovered a chalkboard shattered like glass, the remnants of Mrs. Lark's broken lesson lingering in the air. The laughter they imagined turned to hollow echoes, unsettling and cruel. Then came the scream, piercing and raw. It sent shivers racing down their spines. They turned to flee, but the door slammed shut in a deafening crash. Panic seized them. "Where's the way out?" Ethan shouted as they all fumbled for the knob, but it wouldn't budge. Just when they thought hope was lost, Tara spotted a window at the far end, their only escape route. Together, they hurried to it, feeling the cold sweat of fear collecting at their temples. Yet, just as they reached the glass, the shadows began to shift around them. "Don't leave us," a voice wailed, sounding as if it were trapped in the wall itself. Its sorrow cut through them like a knife, binding their feet to the ground. With growing horror, they felt themselves drawn to it, compelled to listen to the untold stories of the lost teachers. "Wait, what if we can help?" Jamie called out, adrenaline scraping away his fear. But in that moment, a blinding light erupted from the blackened hallway, illuminating ghostly figures drifting closer, their expressions filled with an unearthly sadness. "Will you listen?" The voices echoed, overlapping, as the air thickened with desperation. Now, standing at the edge of terror and revelation, their choices loomed before them. Would they confront the mysteries of the past, or would they retreat into safety? The decision hung in the air, charged with an urgency that felt as perilous as the silence around them. What would they uncover about the fate of those teachers? And would they truly survive to tell the tale? Panic gripped them as the spectral forms floated closer, their features etched with anguish. Jamie's heart raced. How could they possibly help when they were frozen in fear? "We have to listen," he insisted, voicing the thought echoing in all of their minds. Tara, despite her own terror, stepped slightly forward. What happened to you?" she asked, her voice trembling yet bold. A silence enveloped the room, thick and palpable. As the ghosts paused, their eyes reflecting an eternal sorrow, one figure, a woman draped in tattered gray, stepped closer. "We were trapped in our own lessons, bound to this place." Her whisper chilled the air, twisting around them like creeping vines. The air shimmered with intensity as the other spirits nodded, their features manifesting a range of emotions: regret, sadness, and an unsettling urge to be released. "You mean, you're stuck here?" Ethan finally managed to stutter, his voice barely rising above a whisper. "Yes." The chorus of voices cried out, a desperate plea that rattled their bones. "Help us find closure. Help us share our stories." The walls of the room began to tremble as if feeding off their fear. Papers fluttered wildly, and the light pulsed, casting eerie shadows that twisted into grotesque shapes. The friends huddled closer together, instinctively seeking strength in each other. "How can we help?" Jamie shouted, his own fear beginning to morph into a sense of purpose. A strange pull came from the scattered papers on the ground, oddly beckoning Jamie and his friends forward. "Gather our stories," the woman implored. "Reveal the truths hidden beneath the echoes of silence." Staring down at the once-forgotten lesson plans, Jamie felt a weight lift just slightly from his chest. He picked one up, the symbols swirling in his mind like a riddle. "This looks like a code," he declared, shoving the paper into Tara's hands. She let out a breathy gasp, recognizing some of the symbols from her childhood. The unsettling dread turned into a shared curiosity. Ethan squinted at one of the documents scattered on the floor, his heart racing. "These are confessions, aren't they? They wrote down their secrets." His excitement felt contagious, an electric pulse filling the room, battling against the darkness suffocating them. "Exactly. If we can decipher them, maybe they can find peace." Tara accused the air around them, her eyes blazing with determination. They gathered the scattered papers, forming a makeshift table in the center of despair. Hands shook with adrenaline, hearts thudded in unison. The thrill of real action washed over them. But then a gust of wind shattered their focus, sending the papers flying once more. No, no. Come back. Jamie reached for the swirling white pages, panic surging. The light dimmed as the whispers of the trapped figures escalated to desperate cries. Do not turn back, the story must be told. One spirit pleaded, the sorrow curling around Jamie's heart and squeezing until he could barely breathe as Jamie and his friends scrambled to reclaim the flying sheets. A sharp pain pierced through the gloom, igniting a ferocity inside. They had to make a choice. They could either run for safety, leaving the ghosts to their grim fates, or dive into the chaos and confront whatever darkness remained here. In that instant of decision, the door to the teacher's lounge shook violently. Panic surged again. I can't stay here, Ethan yelled, panic fluttering behind his eyes. But Jamie held firm. We can't leave them like this. We have to help. The shadows pulsated dangerously, growing darker, more malevolent as the echoes of lost souls crescendoed into a haunting symphony of anguish. But as they fought against the swirling tempest of terror, a new realization dawned: whatever lay ahead could change everything they understood about the past. What haunting truths did the lesson plans hold, and would their desperate need for closure be the key to shattering this cyclical tragedy? The energy in the room shifted again, and as their fingers grasped the last remnants of the lesson plans, a single phrase leapt off the paper, illuminating the darkness with weighty significance. Once the truth is shared, the burden will lift. And just like that, the world around them beckoned them forth, pushing them toward a destiny they had never anticipated. As shadows clawed at their backs, Jamie thought about the price of their choice. Could they really face whatever truth reared its head? As the ghosts clamored louder, broken fragments of their stories seeping into Jamie's mind, a terrifying question loomed larger than life. What would happen if they unearthed secrets that were never meant to be revealed? With the weight of the spectral plea still echoing in his mind, Jamie's heart hammered against his ribs. Each line of the ghostly instruction pulsed like a beacon, urging him forward. He turned to Tara and Ethan, their faces washed in pale light, distorted by fear but tinged with determination. The air was thick, alive with the desperation of souls who longed for release. What if this is a trap? Ethan squeaked, eyes wide, darting between the swirling shadows and scattered papers. No, we can't think like that, Tara snapped back, her voice sharper than intended, but the fear in her eyes betrayed her bravado. We have to at least try. With another gust of wind tearing through the room, the papers danced aloft again, swirling like a cyclone of dread and anticipation. The ghosts remained silent, gazes locked on the human trio as if assessing their every move. Let us focus, Jamie urged, affirming his resolve. He grabbed a handful of papers, reading them in frantic glances. Some contained uppercase scrawls that read like riddles and others morose lines filled with agony and regret. A recurring name flashed between the scrawl. Mr. Lockhart. It meant nothing to him, but the name glowed ominously in his thoughts. Who was he? Jamie asked, his words tumbling out almost inaudibly amid the chaos. The woman in gray edged closer, the sorrow lifting momentarily from her face. A teacher, our teacher, he betrayed us. The air changed again, charged with a heavy tension that thrummed like a heartbeat. But why? Jamie started, but the question was swallowed by a shriek. A figure behind the others flickered violently, a deep growl emanating from its spectral form. You must not, it hissed, voice overlapping with anguished cries that made Jamie's skin crawl. Listen, Tara shouted, grabbing Jamie's arm tightly. This is the chance to break it. We have to hear them out. As the room shuddered, raw energy crackled in the air. Papers flew from their grasp again, swirling into a tempest. Panic gripped Jamie's chest. They were running out of time. He clutched at a sheet, tumbling, words pouring into his mind as if the paper were a portal. Names, dates, desperate pleas dripped from the fragments. Mr. Lockhart, he took everything, failed us, left us behind. What did he do? Ethan whispered, fear shading his voice. Haunted these halls, the woman pressed with increasing urgency. Taught but twisted the lessons, we lost ourselves in his silence. Silence? Tara questioned, eyes shimmering with unshed tears. Yes. Share our truths. The chorus rose, voices mingling into an unsettling symphony. Before he returns, Jamie's pulse quickened. What did you mean before he returns? Who's coming? The room fell into unsettling silence, as if even the echoes of anguish trembled under an unseen weight. A shadow moved behind them, a darkness that felt alive. The temperature dropped suddenly, biting against their skin, sending a shimmering dread through Jamie's bones. They turned around, and there stood a figure shrouded in dark intent, an ominous silhouette whose face was obscured by the pallid glow of a flickering light. Did you really think you could change what's already been set in stone? Mr. Lockhart's voice rang, heavy and filled with an icy authority. Run! Jamie shouted, glancing back at Tara and Ethan, dread pooling in his stomach. The darkness and the history within were rapidly closing in like a vice, but every inch they moved towards liberation would be met with insatiable hunger. In that moment, Jamie understood what lay beyond the secrets they were trying to unveil. It wasn't just the ghosts that were trapped. They too were now embroiled in an ancient cycle of betrayal and pain, and a deeper darkness was rising. With a jolt of clarity, Jamie felt an adrenaline-fueled resolve. They had to confront Lockhart and unearth the knotted tales of terror in the shadows before it consumed them. As the chilling figure stepped forward, Jamie's mind raced with one burning question. How could anyone break free from the chains of a haunting that was rooted deep in betrayal? And as the room erupted, in a cacophony of screams and swirling shadows, he realized that whatever happened next would change everything they thought they knew, and that they were not just fighting for the ghosts, but for their very souls. As they bolted toward the door, the air crackled with palpable tension. Jamie's heart raced, pounding in his ears like a warning siren. The chilling breath of Mr. Lockhart washed over them, a dark wave that threatened to swallow their fleeing forms. It pushed at their backs, urging them forward, yet whispering the gravity of failure in their ears. Go, go, Tara yelled, her voice breaking through the chaos, propelling them forward. Yet, the door was too far, and it felt like they were wading through thick molasses, every step a struggle against the creeping despair that surrounded them. Suddenly, Jamie stumbled, tripping over a stray paper. Its ink was so familiar, almost like a distant echo resonating with his conviction. Grabbing it desperately, he glimpsed the name again. Mr. Lockhart. Panic flared anew, igniting memories that weren't his own but felt rooted in the very fabric of this cursed place. Tara. No. Ethan's scream sliced through the air, pulling Jamie from his reverie. He looked back. Tara had fallen, the specter of Mr. Lockhart hovering above her like a thundercloud, dark energy crackling around him. Stay away, Jamie yelled as if his words could sever the tether that bound Lockhart to Tara. But darkness had weight, and it pressed against them, suffocating hope. Tara's eyes widened, staring into an abyss of fear. Help me, she gasped, clawing at the floor, but invisible hands grasped her, anchoring her in place. Get up, Tara, Ethan pleaded, his voice strained, eyes darting between Jamie and their friend. Anger surged within Jamie, igniting the fight in him. You won, take her, he shouted as he charged forward. He grabbed Tara's arm, pulling with all his strength. Lockhart's icy influence flickered, a constant battle of darkness and resolve. Ethan rushed in, joining Jamie in a valiant attempt to rescue her. Together, they yanked, straining against ethereal chains that seemed to extend from the shadows themselves. Come on, Tara, fight, Ethan cried, desperation lacing every word. In that moment, the spectral faces began to swirl around them, their mournful eyes clamoring for release. They mirrored Tara's fear, pleading for the truth to surface. Each one filled with unfulfilled longing and agony, every face a reminder of the pain buried beneath Lockhart's betrayal. Suddenly, Tara reached out, connecting with the cacophony of voices. I see you, she gasped. A flicker of recognition sparked in her eyes, and Jamie could feel a charge course through the air. Don't let them take you, Tara, he yelled, but something shifted. A raw energy pulsed around them, infusing her with strength. She braced herself against the pull, her voice rising against the shadows. You want the truth? I'll give it to you. The shadows recoiled slightly as if confused. It was a momentary slip in Lockhart's grip, one they had to exploit. With a powerful pull, Jamie and Ethan yanked Tara free, the unexpected surge of movement knocking them all down onto the cold floor. They scrambled to their feet, but Lockhart was unfazed. He growled like a beast, the shadows swirling around him thickening, ready to reclaim its prey. Run! Tara gasped, her breath ragged as they stumbled toward the door once more. But Jamie felt the weight of their desperate battle pulling them back, like gravity anchoring him to this place of despair. His resolve deepened as he looked back at Tara and Ethan. He couldn't shake off the feeling that their fight was just beginning. The truth had been awakened, but there was still a price to be paid. Flickers of anguish danced around them, growing stronger with each passing second. Unlock it, Jamie shouted. Find his weakness. The words hung heavy in the air as they fled toward the door, which now seemed to loom larger than ever before. Tara nodded, determination igniting her eyes, and Jamie knew they had to dig deeper into the shadows, to face the truth that lay hidden in the folds of betrayal. The whispers begged for release, and together they would uncover whatever secrets Mr. Lockhart desperately tried to keep buried, before it was too late for any of them. But would the truth set them free, or bind them tighter to this fate? As they reached for the door, one last scream echoed through the air, sending chills down their spines. Before he returns, the anticipation suffocated them, and Jamie was left with one haunting question. Could they really fight a darkness so ingrained in their very souls? They hurled themselves toward the door, every heartbeat a frantic reminder that time was running out. The shadows pulsed around them, each flicker a reminder of Lockhart's wrath, a beast waiting to pounce. Jamie could feel an almost tangible panic rising among them. Tara was still gasping, adrenaline pouring through her veins, and Ethan's face was a mask of terror. Almost there, he shouted, his voice strained, as they reached the door that felt impossibly distant. Just as they approached, the door rattled violently, smashing against its frame as if someone was trying to force it open from the other side. Air flooded out in a gust, filling their lungs with a mix of stale office chatter and mystery. The sound of writing, the eeriness of faint whispers pealed through the air like the rustling of wings. The ground beneath their feet shivered, sending shockwaves through Jamie. Tara pressed her palms to her ears, trying to block out the madness. We can't stop, just keep going, she cried, her eyes fixed on the door, a glimmer of hope shimmering behind the panic. But then it happened. A dense fog materialized, swirling around Lockhart, thick like ink and suffocating. It twirled in a sinister dance, wrapping around him like a shroud. With every step forward, Jamie felt the pull of despair thicken, holding him back as if trapping him in quicksand. Hold on, he gasped, gripping Tara's arm tighter, as Ethan flung himself at the door, wrenching at the handle. A sickening crack echoed through the air, not the sound of a door opening, but something more sinister, more disruptive. The fabric of reality felt paler, tinged with the color of dread. Ethan, Tara screeched as he staggered back, the door seemingly nonchalant against his desperation. What's happening? It's locked, it can't open. Panic crept into Ethan's voice, sending chills down Jamie's spine. It wasn't just the door holding them back. It was Lockhart himself. They fought against paralysis, their muscles screaming for movement. The dark figure stood grounded, the shadows swirling faster now, as if sensing their hesitation. Then we break it down, Jamie shouted, refusing to let despair seep into their minds. We don't back down. We can't let him win. With a unified scream, they charged toward the door, fear morphing into a wild, electric energy. Shoulders colliding against wood, they crashed in unison, sparks of energy igniting with the force of their fear. Tara screamed. Ethan grunted. Jamie roared. Faster! Tara's voice rang out as if it held the magic of chains being broken. In that fervor of urgency, they slammed again. The door juddered but held firm. Lockhart's laughter boomed, a deep, resounding echo that twisted into the walls around them. You're too late, children. The truth is buried deeper than you can imagine. Each syllable crackled with malice, igniting whispers of defeat. Shut up, Jamie growled, hitting the door again. We're not done yet. But something changed. The air thickened, punctured with dread. Shadows lengthened, reaching for them like cold fingers. The whispers swelled, overlapping voices full of despair. His heart pounded louder. They were losing it, losing the fight. Think, Jamie. You're smarter than him. Tara's voice resonated in his mind. If Lockhart had weaknesses, they needed to find them. Ethan, do you remember those stories about him when he was teaching? Anything specific? Jamie exclaimed, rallying his friends from the brink of defeat. They needed to draw upon every scrap of knowledge, everything that made Lockhart vulnerable. He used to Ethan began, but another roar echoed. Jamie's thoughts raced, chasing the threads of memory. There must be something that reveals what he's really afraid of. And just like that, an idea struck him. His failures, his past. We have to expose it. But Lockhart's shadows surged, drowning out reason. You think you can unearth my truth? You're mistaken. I am your darkness now. Suddenly, the door shook violently, and with a crack, a sliver of blinding light streamed from the edges. Push, Jamie roared, as hope surged. But even as they pressed against fear and darkness, a new chill swept through the air. The door started to break apart, splinters flying. Yet Jamie knew whatever lay beyond was uncertain. Now it's either freedom or a permanent grave, he whispered, every pulse of fear darkening the air. Gripping each other, they braced for what would come next. As the door began to yield, a shadow darted through the opening, a flash that sent terror ripping through Jamie's chest. Was it Lockhart? Or something worse? Are you ready? Tara's voice trembled, thick with dread. And with one final push, they broke through, into the unknown. What awaited them on the other side? An answer or the end? The darkness behind them stirred, breathing. The blinding light engulfed them, pushing back the shadows momentarily and revealing a room that looked eerily familiar. Jamie blinked, trying to focus his vision as his heart raced. The walls were lined with bookshelves, but not just any shelves. They were filled with decrepit volumes, some missing spines and others cracked open, pages fluttering like trapped birds. Ethan stumbled in, his breath coming in sharp bursts. Where are we? It looks like it's his archive, Tara murmured, stepping carefully over scattered papers that crunched beneath her feet. Jamie's gut twisted. This was Lockhart's hell, a place to store his dark secrets and failures. Look, Ethan pointed at an old mahogany desk, its surface cluttered with glass jars filled with swirling, murky liquids and objects that immediately made Jamie's skin crawl. A collection of teeth, a cracked mirror, and one eerily lifelike wax figure that looked hauntingly familiar. Is that? Tara hesitated, her voice trailing. Me, Jamie whispered, staring at the wax effigy that mimicked his own expression of horror. Why does he have this? I think we found the weakness, Ethan said, fear morphing into determination. We have to uncover his truths, Jamie. If this is his past, then we can use it against him. But the moment they calmed, the air shifted again. The door behind them slammed shut with a resounding thud, plunging them into a mounting darkness. And then came the laughter, Lockhart's laughter, sinister and echoing through the very core of their beings. This isn't just my past. It's yours now, children. His voice rolled like thunder, reverberating from the shadows. You thought you could escape? This is where it ends. Jamie felt a rush of dread settle deep in his chest. The shadows began creeping closer, snaking around them with a malevolent intelligence. We can't let him win. No, Tara said suddenly, her eyes sparkling with revelation. Look around. These all have names. Records of his failures and ours. We can use them to take his power away. She darted toward one of the shelves, pulling out a book bound in cracked leather. Do it, Jamie shouted, his voice breaking. He was fueled by desperation as he followed her lead, grabbing an old tome and flipping through its pages. Each turn revealed dark truths of Lockhart's past, the students he tormented, the unfair grades he doled out, the lives he de-twisted. It was as if the shadows recoiled at the exposure of his sins. Found something, Ethan yelled. He hoisted a volume above his head. This one S about how he failed a student, someone who tried to stand up to him. It says he was never able to face the boy again. Then we have to amplify it, Tara shouted. But with every word they shouted, the shadows thrashed violently, angered at their rebellion. Lockhart's voice became razor-sharp, slicing through the air. You think you can make me feel weak? He appeared in the doorway, his figure twisted and grotesque in the eerie light, shadows swirling ferociously around him. Let us see you face your own failures first. In that moment, Jamie was hit with the weight of self-doubt, the crushing fear of his own inadequacies. What had he done? What mistakes brought him here? He faltered, hesitating as shadows wrapped around him, whispering doubts that clawed at his mind. Jamie! Don't! Tara cried, anguish evident in her voice. You're stronger than this. Remember what he took from you. But in another surge of darkness, the wax figure on the desk began to melt under an unseen heat, its features warping into a hideously exaggerated version of Jamie's face, a mask of fear and regret. Jamie! Ethan shouted, taking a step closer to him. Fight it! Yes, trying to feed off your fear. The flickers of light were flickering out, reality pressing closer. What was it that Lockhart wanted? Was it truly to claim them as his own? Or was it to feed off the very darkness they all carried within them? As time thinned, Jamie felt a spark flicker within him, a memory of hope. We can't let him win. We're more than his shadows. He feeds on our fears. With a burst of adrenaline, Jamie reached for the book on the desk, slapping it open. Let us drag him into the light. Together, as they read aloud, their voices blending, the room vibrated with potential energy. The shadows writhed, but determination surged through them. Would it be enough to expose Lockhart's true power? Jamie's heart thundered in his chest. They had to push back, but as the last words left their lips, a wave of darkness crashed into them, a final act of defiance. What was this risky maneuver leading them toward? Redemption or doom? The shadows pressed in like a vice, and Jamie knew they were standing at a precipice far more dangerous than ever before. Hold on, he roared, even as the darkness closed in. What happens when the light meets the deepest shadows? The darkness surged around them, a living entity that raged against their incantation. Jamie felt his lungs constrict as they battled against a tide of despair that threatened to drown them. The shadows coiled tighter, squeezing the breath from his body, as Lockhart's laugh echoed in mocking delight. But just when Jamie thought he would be swallowed whole, Tara's voice cut through, sharp and unwavering. We're not afraid of you. She spoke like a warrior rallying her troops. Your fears are nothing compared to the strength we share. Ethan joined her, pushing against the darkness, his hands gripping Jamie's shoulders. Focus. Remember why we're here. For every single student you've crushed, every life you've twisted, we are the reckoning. With renewed determination, Jamie felt the dread recede a little. The words soared into the void, filling it with defiance. He gripped the pages tighter, the words becoming a talisman against the evil that encroached. Then the shadows started to crack. Fragments of light flickered like stars breaking the surface of a dark ocean. Jamie could see glimpses of faces trapped within the swirling mass the lost souls Lockhart had imprisoned in this place of nightmares. Look, Jamie gasped, pointing. They're trapped. We have to save them. Together, Tara urged, their belief intertwining like roots to a tree, strong and unyielding. They spoke louder, their voices rising above the chaos, weaving threads of hope into the oppressive darkness. The shadows shrieked, warping and curling away as if burned by a fierce flame, revealing the painful memories Lockhart had meticulously tucked away. Jamie froze upon seeing one particular face amongst the swirling chaos, the boy who had dared to stand up to Lockhart, the one who had written of all their names in the volume Ethan had lifted. That's him. The student Lockhart failed. The boy seemed to reach out, eyes pleading for freedom. But the darkness around him thickened, holding him tight. Jamie felt a surge of rage and fear. These shadows were not just an extension of Lockhart. They were the embodiment of all the pain he had inflicted. "Let him go!" Jamie screamed, desperation clawing at his throat. With a final burst of energy, they recited one last passage from the tome, every word an anthem of liberation. "Your past cannot haunt us any longer. We will shine light in the darkest corners of your heart." A shockwave rippled through the room, reverberating against the walls, causing books to fly off their shelves and land in chaotic piles around them. Lockhart's laughter turned to a howl of rage, echoing wildly. "No, you trivial children!" The wax figure melted fully now, releasing a cloud of darkness that screamed as it ascended into nothingness, while Jamie felt an angelic warmth wash over him, lifting their spirits. The shadows flickered more violently, retreating like a tide thwarted by the sun. "Keep going," Ethan shouted. "Stay strong." But just as it seemed they might win, the blinding light dimmed, and Lockhart's form solidified before them once more, now towering, grotesque, and twisted in fury. "You dare challenge me? You think you've won? You've merely given me more power." The temperature plummeted, freezing their breath as the walls began to close in. Jamie could barely stand as fear surged back inside him unbidden. Did they truly have a chance? In that moment of disbelief, Jamie stumbled backward, his thoughts racing. What if this is just another trap? What if? A distant, haunting whisper echoed through the room, shaking him to his core. "Find the heart of the archive. It holds the key." Tara met his frantic gaze, eyes wide with realization. "The heart, you mean the main book, the one that has everything?" As the shadows lunged toward them once more, Jamie's heart raced in his chest. They had a lead, but could they reach it before Lockhart claimed his revenge? "Let us go," Tara shouted, urgency propelling them toward the far wall, where an ancient book lay slightly ajar on an ornate pedestal shrouded in the very darkness they fought against. But just as they stepped closer, Lockhart summoned all his strength, darkness swirling into a tempest that threatened to tear them apart. "Nowhere to run," he bellowed, extending a hand that flickered with shadowy energy, aiming for Jamie's heart. "Jamie, look out!" Ethan screamed as time slowed, revealing the flickering paths of choices that book, their only hope glimmering through the chaos. Would they reach it before Lockhart crushed their spirits? With a breath that felt like fire in his lungs, Jamie leaped forward, determined to grab hold of their fate. With a surge of adrenaline, Jamie launched himself across the threshold into the thrumming darkness. He could almost taste the fear coating his tongue, but he didn't let it stop him. Each heartbeat echoed in his ears, drowning out Lockhart's furious roar. The ominous swirl of shadows clawed at his back, whispering doubts and dread, but Jamie refused to falter. It was as if time itself had warped, stretching out the moments into a nail-biting eternity. Sinking into the moment, he felt the ancient book pulling him in, radiant against the blackened backdrop like a lone lighthouse in a storm. His fingers brushed the cover, slick and cool, filled with crumbling history and untold secrets. In that moment, something incredible happened. The warmth surged through him, threading through every bone and sinew. Tara and Ethan were right behind him, their resolve anchoring him against the oppressive weight of despair. "Jamie!" Tara's voice sliced through the dark, desperate and fierce. "You have to open it. Now!" Lockhart's shadows whipped around them, screeching with fury as they realized their prey had taken a stand. It was as if the layers of darkness were alive, wailing and screeching in anger. But Jamie's heart raced, a beacon drowning out the chaos. With a final breath, he flung the book open wide. The sheer force sent a gust of wind spiraling through the room, tossing pages like autumn leaves. Words erupted, coiling into the air like fireflies, latching onto the darkness and illuminating it with every syllable they spoke. Each letter seemed to pulse, alive with hope and defiance. "Transform our fear into strength," Tara shouted, her voice rallying even through the tumult. Ethan positioned himself beside Jamie, gripping the edges of the pages. "We can't let him win. We are stronger together." The book glowed brilliantly, infusing Jamie with energy that surged like electricity. The trapped spirits within the shadows began to respond, flinging themselves forward in a rush of ethereal light, joining the spell binding them all together. Faces of students lost, forgotten, now soared in a magnificent display of resilience. But Lockhart was relentless. Amidst the rising tide of rebellion, he howled with fury, his grotesque form transforming, towering like a dark giant as shadows twisted violently around him. "You foolish children." His voice was like gravel scraping against metal. "You think you can erase me? I exist in the very essence of fear." Every word felt like a physical blow, driving an icy spike into Jamie's heart. The fear threatened to engulf him again, the shadows heightening around them, suffocating and oppressive. Panic clawed at him. The whispers of doubt were growing louder. "Jamie, don't listen." Tara's fierce eyes locked onto his, grounding him. "You know him. He thrives on fear." With the crack of determination echoing within him, Jamie remembered the boy's face, the one who had stood against Lockhart, and instinct kicked in. "We need to bring them back. We have to free them." He turned to the book, pouring everything into his words, feeling the surge of magic swell. "Together, let us be the light that banishes this darkness." As if in response, the words from the petal glowed even brighter, illuminating the room in blinding light. The shadows roared, writhing like serpents in agony against the onslaught. "Fools!" Lockhart screamed, his voice nearly drowned out by the rising light. "You will pay for your defiance." Jamie grasped Tara's hand tightly. They were not alone. A chorus of voices joined theirs, the echoes of the lost, the faint whispers from beyond, rising to clash against the shadowed menace. Then, as if carved from primordial ether, a brilliant beam of light shot from the book, piercing the swirling dark and illuminating Lockhart's monstrous figure. The shadows screamed, shrieking in terror as pieces of Lockhart began to break off, dissipating into the air like ashes. "Keep pushing," Ethan yelled, his voice rising above the chaos. "Don't let up." But just as victory seemed tangible, the ground shook, and dark tendrils lashed out, striking them down from all sides. Jamie's grip slipped as a wave of energy exploded outward. His heart plummeted as a shadow wrapped around him, dragging him back into darkness. "No!" Tara screeched, reaching for him, panic flooding her voice. In that instant, Jamie felt the walls of the archive start to disintegrate. Lockhart howled with manic glee. "You can't escape me. I will be reborn from the ashes of your despair." As blackness threatened to close in around him, a chilling truth shot through Jamie's mind. The power of that book could free not only the lost souls but them as well, if only he could hold on just a moment longer. Will they harness the power of the archive, or will Lockhart drag them into the depths of oblivion? With a thunderous crack, the swirling shadows began to falter, locking eyes with the radiant light igniting from the book. Jamie felt his heart racing, thrumming against his chest, almost synchronized with the chaos surrounding him. A flicker of hope ignited within as he grasped the book tighter, feeling its pulsing energy surging through him. "Fight it, Jamie!" Tara cried out, her voice breaking through the maelstrom like a lifeline. The shadows swirled around him, their icy tendrils grasping at his limbs, but he pushed through, fueled by the fervor of their united spirit. "Remember who you are," Ethan shouted, his voice strong, guiding Jamie through the suffocating darkness. "You're not just a casualty of this place, you're part of this fight." And with that, it clicked. He was not alone. The spirits of the lost, the embers of forgotten struggles, surged behind him like an army rising from the depths of despair. It wasn't just about fighting Lockhart, it was about releasing the haunted souls trapped within his darkness. "Together," Jamie shouted, rallying his friends. Tara's hand gripped his tightly, grounding him as they proclaimed their shared oath against the shadows. "We rise from fear." The book in his hands thrummed violently, and he screamed the incantation he'd been holding back, every word flowing from the depths of his being. "Shame cannot bind us. Betrayal does not define us." The light exploded outward, illuminating the room with radiant beams, forcing shadows to retreat, collapsing under the weight of truth. Lockhart snarled, his features twisting in rage. "You think your words can topple me? I will doom you all." His form began to shift, jagged edges forming, dark fury trembling as if threatened. But Jamie stood firm, fueled by the memories swirling around him, the laughter of friends, the warmth of love, the innocence betrayed. He could feel the vulnerability in the air, each spirit's presence a reminder of the transgressions that needed acknowledgement. Together, Tara echoed, her voice intertwined with their hearts. Jamie closed his eyes for a moment, drawing from the collective strength of the weary souls around him. Open your hearts. Let the truth prevail. The room crackled, alive with energy as the words poured out, cascading against the darkness. The shadows recoiled, howling with torment as their grip weakened. Lockhart roared, thrashing in a panic. No, you'll pay for this insolence. But the tide had turned. With a last surge of unified purpose, they unleashed one final incantation together, their voices harmonizing as the echoes of truth filled the room. From shadows we come, with light we shall rise. The past cannot chain us. We are set free. In that moment, a blinding surge of light erupted from the book, piercing through the dark cloud with a force unlike anything they'd ever known. The shadows shrieked in despair, swirling around Lockhart in a maelstrom of chaos, pulling him apart like paper caught in a fierce wind. "New!" Lockhart's anguished cry echoed as he dissolved into nothingness, fading into the very air that had once wrapped around him, disintegrating under the weight of shared truth. The room brightened, ethereal figures emerging, rising from the ashes of despair. Jamie felt a gentle warmth engulf him as the spirits reclaimed their freedom, their gratitude radiating like sunlight breaking through storm clouds. Tara and Ethan dropped to their knees, breathless yet reinvigorated. Jamie stared in awe as the once captive spirits swirled around them, whispering sweet recognitions. Thank you, the echoes floated around them, lifting the weight of dread that had lingered for so long. They had done it. Together, they had freed the lost souls shackled to Lockhart's pain, shattering the cycle of torment that had haunted these halls for years. Jamie felt an overwhelming sense of peace wash over him, the heavy shadows lifting. But even in triumph, Jamie's heart ached for those who had suffered. This isn't just about us, he said softly, looking at Tara and Ethan. We have to tell their stories so they're not forgotten. The two nodded, faces filled with understanding. They need to be remembered, Tara replied, tears of relief in her eyes. Together, they vowed that no harm would go unrecognized, their commitment to uncover every story buried beneath silence. Holding hands, they stepped through the entrance that now beckoned them home, feeling lighter than they had ever imagined. The haunted schoolhouse stood silent, no longer a place of torment but a repository of truth. As they stepped out into the rays of dawn, Jamie glanced back, knowing the past was now marked with hope instead of fear. Come on, guys, Jamie said with a smile, feeling a weight lift. Let us let everyone know about the teachers who once walked these halls and the truths we uncovered. With laughter dancing on the breeze, they hurried off into the morning light, each footstep a promise to the shadows of the past that they would never be forgotten again. Now, it's your turn to join this journey. Don't hold back, subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss any of the exclusive stories coming your way. Smash that like button now to help us grow this community. Flood the comments section with your thoughts, reactions, and theories, and share this epic conclusion with at least 5 friends who need to experience this ending. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second. Your voice matters, and your excitement fuels our fire for more epic storytelling.